Amy Edwards, you are an Austin celeb, you're a podcast host, you're an entrepreneur, you are specifically the host of the Amy Edwards Show.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for coming to one of the newer episodes.
I'm so excited to support anything you do.
Oh gosh.
I love you. We met through the mentorship program at Soho House, and you were their youngest mentor there. So I mean, like, you were on my show, and it's been a joy to know you, and I'm excited that this is growing and to help in any way I can.
Oh gosh, thank you. Well, I know, and that was what inspired me to even do this, like at a home setup, is because you have a beautiful studio that you've literally created. That is just stunning.
Well, thank you.
I never forgot that. So
you know what, Alexa, that was created out of necessity.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those things that happens in life, and you think it's a setback, and then you're like, wait, I can get better from this. I can learn from this.
Yeah.
And any financial stuff that comes along, any business setbacks, like for me, it was a business setback. I signed with a podcast network and was making money. It was like the dream. And it came about like a dream because one day I was like, you know what? I need to sign with a podcast network. I need to step into using my name for my podcast. Podcasting is my direction in life. That's what I want. I want to be the top podcaster in the world. And so I said that one day. I'd had 2 previous podcasts. I said that. The next day, I went to have drinks with my boss at the time. I was working at The Statesman doing their streaming radio station, and sat next to this adorable chick, and we started chatting. We were in the Airstream trailer, and I was like, well, what do you do? And she said, well, we're starting a podcast network right here in the building. We're renting some space. And I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, yeah, I said, what are you looking for? And she said, well, we're looking for strong females and centered on helping people, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, check. So it just fell into place. And it felt like it was like the path. It felt like it was supposed to happen. And it was. But then come like a year and a half later, I signed with them. It was going well, but I knew that the whole organization was having trouble. And I thought something's going to happen in the next few months. Well, it didn't take that long.
Yeah.
I thought it would happen in like July. It happened in April. Suddenly I got an email. They were like, we're shutting our doors. We're going to record for you today, but we can't even edit it.
Oh no.
See you later. Wishing you well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really stunning. This thing I thought I was building, and I was like, what am I going to do? And so I started recording at other studios, and relying on others to help me. But I had to check myself a little bit and say, like, am I making enough to sustain this? And I realized that I was phoning it in some on my show. I wasn't paying enough attention. I wasn't giving it my all in the ways that I could. And so I just had to reframe, life is just like the grandest reframe all the time. And so I stepped into, okay, how can this look like a blessing? How can I actually make what I care about so much better? And so that's what I did. So I had that space upstairs in my house that my kids, it was like a kids lounge. I have 2 teenage daughters. They weren't using it. So I was like, it's mine now. So I converted it into that. I already had the equipment just sitting around that was my partner's and from his previous business. And so I was like, okay, I have lights, I have cameras, all I need is the action. And so I just did it and ended up like having some, tough times editing, but I ended up learning how to edit. I ended up learning how to, use Canva and make a cool intro and like just really easy things. And I feel like it's going to feed my path so well. Like, it's important to know every step of your business, right?
Sure.
Like you need to know all the ins and outs, and sometimes life forces us to. So that just led me into that story because it's all about reframing.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I'm at a place where, okay, we're looking at moving. My partner's developing his podcast to continue with, and I was the producer of his as well. And so his is changing, and now I'm like, oh, my goal is to open a podcast studio where I can help people really easily. Like I understand it so much better, and I could oversee that kind of thing. So I have a dream to not only have my podcast studio there, but be able to provide people like you,
Sure.
maybe, in those instances where you need like a really nice space and editors and everything.
You bring up so many points in that. I love the topic about the financial part of it, about, entrepreneurs really sometimes have to bootstrap. They can't make $1 million studio right when, something happens. I also love that you seem to hit the head on like manifesting that show with the station. do you think manifestation is something that brought you into that, even though it's not what the current state is,
Right.
but you wanted it so bad and you got it?
I know. I go back and forth with manifestation. I'm reading this book right now called It's Not Your Money. And it's just the opposite. It's Tosha Silver. Have you heard of it?
No.
And she has a deck that I really love. So
Okay.
I've done shows on manifestation. I've talked about it. I'm a fan, essentially, but sometimes it can lead you into feeling like I'm doing this wrong.
Yeah.
What am I not doing right? Like, why didn't that go right for me? And that's blocking things. That's the opposite of where we need to be. We need to be in that reframe mode. This is all happening for me. And so I just have had to lean a lot into surrender. And yes, I feel like I did manifest that moment, but at the same time, I still believe that it's all happening the way it's supposed to be happening. So it's just a surrender to the process, really. And that's been the key for me. Financially, I mean, I'm not as liquid as I would like to be right now, but I'm still in that phase of like, you know what? No, I think we go up and down. There's just phases of everything.
Course.
And so I think I'm just in like a work mode right now, and that's okay. And that's what it's felt like for the last year. And I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be learning this. And I'm supposed to be able to speak to certain things about finances, about learning, about taking control of my own finances, which has been a huge part of my journey. I mean, I'm 50 years old, and I feel like I'm just getting a handle on really taking care of myself financially.
Yeah.
And that's been something I've had to, have a little shame around and let go of, and guilt and whatever else. But nobody's going to do it for you. And I think I wanted to say that today, that I think women can feel like, oh my gosh, I'm already 30 and I don't have, this much saved or whatever. Okay, I'm 50. Like, it's never too late.
No.
Never too late. Just keep it simple for you. And so that was my main bit of advice I wanted to say is your path is your path. Keep it simple for you and just start paying attention to it every single day. Because what we pay attention to is where our energy goes and where the magic starts to flow. And so just start checking in with it, figuring out what you're spending on, what it really looks like. Because I know I've had plenty of times, I don't know if you have, you seem pretty responsible, but when I buried my head in the sand or something.
Not about money. That's the thing, is I think people look at someone successful and think that everyone has all of those things figured out. And I would think that they would also think that about you, and people can. But like you said, there's also an ebb and a flow of finances and just life in general, obviously. But you have a really good point about feeling like, now you're this age and you wish perhaps you had learned these things about money at 30. Walk me back to the beginning of your story. How did you learn about money? Who taught you these things?
I think I got conflicting messages because I grew up with a mother and father that were raised in the 50s. My parents were a little older. They were born in 1936. And so they had a really traditional view of marriage, and they stayed married for a long time. They had a great relationship and all this. But my dad was traditional too. And so he was the breadwinner and the provider. Mm-hmm. My mom was a writer, but didn't earn money. She worked in our church and stuff like that and raised the kids, stayed at home. And so I saw that dynamic. And then my dad had 2 daughters. And so I think since he didn't have a son too, he wanted us to be independent. Yeah. And he wanted to set us up for success. But at the same time, he wanted us to find a good husband. So it was I didn't realize until probably 4 or 5 years ago, my second divorce was happening. And I was like, I think I have conflicting messages, because I was expecting these marriages to pan out differently, them to take care of me. But I was the one with the money in the relationships. Mm-hmm. And so it was just because my dad set me up. So my story's a little bit different in that regard. He set me up with investments that were going to pay long term.
Even in when you were born?
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, he worked his way through it. So he was self-made.
Yeah.
So he taught me to always make money for me. He taught me some really, if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I mean, my dad was a self-made rich dad. Yeah. That's the things he taught me.
And at what age did he start teaching you about the investing and setting up for that kind of success?
I think always.
Okay.
Always. I mean, he was always talking about those things. He was always investing in real estate and really long-term stuff. I mean, my sister and I had percentages in a piece of land he bought that was way out in the sticks outside Houston. And 25 years later, we made money on it. We sold it to a gas station company or something. And so I did understand that it's a long-term game with investments and things like that, and the importance of mailbox money, the importance of diversification. I've been reading a book right now called The 1 Minute Millionaire. I wanted to give you like a little list of a few books. I'm always cycling through books. And so The 1 Minute Millionaire has been pretty good because it is about some different ways you can diversify and find different streams of income and just not have all your eggs in one basket. Like, we don't know what's going to happen, right? You could lose your job, you could, whatever it is. And so he was always teaching me that, but I still don't think that I had like really good, solid financial education.
Why?
Because I've just made mistakes that I didn't think about, that I thought, I don't know though. I've probably made some other good decisions, like having a good accountant the whole time, you know? But I haven't managed what I had as well as I would have liked.
Got it.
And I feel like he passed away in 2011. Sure. And thank you. And I feel like I've let him down some, but at the same time, that's just part of my journey. So that's part of like, okay, I'm just having to trust that I am where I am because, and take what I've learned and do the best I can right now. And that's a tough place to get to.
I can tell you, I mean, I'm very proud of you. I can tell you your dad would be very proud of you. And I think,
that's so sweet.
Of course. I think that's the weird thing about money is it's like another obstacle. It's the one thing that I think lets and allows so many people to be like free and have financial freedom and be able to do anything. But it's like almost a full-time job. Reading the book, tracking the finances, knowing what you're spending. So what piece of advice would you have looking back at your 20s and even your kids' age, how old they are or that you give them on being able to start early enough so that you can set yourself up financially, even if you don't necessarily have like a trust fund or any type of fund behind you to be able to pay off your debt faster and whatnot?
I have a daughter right now who's 18, about to go to college, and she is surprisingly already really good at her money. And I'm like, maybe something rubbed off, but I think it's like I said, your path is your path. There's not a one size fits all answer. No. You can't read your Susie Orman book and be like, this is it, check, 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 because I've tried. And because something's not going to feel right. No. And then you're going to feel like a failure. And then what? So you got to just relax a little bit first, right? We can't just say, I'm not going to get it right and stress out about it because that actually is going in the wrong direction of trust. I'm big on trust, surrender, and that life has a path for us. And so, maybe some people subscribe to that, maybe they don't.
Yeah.
For me, it works because it just feels better. And after 50 years, I don't want to feel bad anymore. I'm like, I'm over feeling bad. I'm over beating myself up. I'm over feeling like, what am I going to do? I'm just going to relax and see what happens because I've tried the other way and it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. So I think that don't adopt the mindset that it's black and white. There is a lot of gray area in your path and everything is your path. So why not money too?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So then I would say on top of that, just build the habit of creating an energy that invites more in, that is happy when you deal with money, because I think that we can lean into that whole other side of it that's like, I'm sorry, I can't.
No, you can swear. Swear away.
It's like, I got to pay this bill or being upset about it or stressing out about it, which I've been there. I've done it all. And so I totally get it. And I get how it can spill into the rest of your life and cause stress. But it's a process to get enough sleep, eat okay, get some exercise in nature, and like get in the headspace where you can handle it a little bit and then have a more generous attitude toward it. And the other thing I think is we talk about building income, building wealth, saving, all those things. But implementing giving, I don't know how much you talk about this. Implementing giving, I think, not only sets us up to help the world, but it also trains our brain into enoughness rather than lack. Because when we're giving, we're constantly saying, there is enough for me and for you. And so that's just like a extra mind trick that I think really helps. And that's one of the things I wanted to express today. Can you give 10%? Like, can you really step into committing to that?
What do you suggest doing that to? Is it an organization? Is it to like a church? Is it to a charity?
Anything.
Okay. And would you say one organization? Should it be multiple? Is this monthly? How do you do it?
I think, again, figure it out. It doesn't even matter. maybe somebody's having a really hard time or their house burned down and, you see their GoFundMe and you're like, well, I just got paid and maybe that's it for the month. Or maybe you want to commit for a year to a certain organization. I know that my partner has a nonprofit, and so we particularly give to his nonprofit. But yet we're hoping to build up in a way where we're able to say, okay, this much we get to give to other nonprofits and support, things that we care about.
Yeah.
And so I've had a mantra that like I repeat a lot, and it's, let's see, I have it written down and I say it in my head a lot. So I always have more than enough to give generously, to invest freely, to give my girls everything, to travel first class.
I love this.
There's more to it. I'm like
Did you
blanking out a
you
little.
came up with
I wrote it
Serious.
myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send it to you and you
Yeah.
can put it with this. And like, so making up your own mantra that just kind of fills these spaces of like what you really, how you want to feel. And that's where the manifestation
Okay.
is, right? And like,
Yeah.
if you can just repeat it, it has magic in it. So don't worry too much about doing it right,
Sure.
is my advice.
Two then like manifestation-y things that you would say about money, like short phrases off
Oh.
the cuff that you could think of.
Mm.
Because I know you said you don't. You to me are like the definition of manifesting. Like I feel like
Really?
exactly. I want to do everything that you do in a day to get to where you are now, to like how you look now. So I was surprised that you said that about manifesting, but I also agree. I find some of that stuff like very woo-woo. It's like a little too much for me.
It
So
can be.
Yeah,
It can be
it's too
because you're
much.
like me. I'm a little grounded.
Yeah.
I'm an earth sign. I
Yeah.
don't know if that matters, but I am a grounded person.
Yeah.
And so yeah, sometimes it gets a little too heady or in the
Yeah.
clouds, and so you bring it down.
That's
to
how I
reality.
feel.
And that's okay. That's
Mhm.
great because that's what works for you.
Mhm.
So that's really cool. I thought of something while you were talking about that. Something you were saying about that manifestation piece, and that's really kind of you. I know what it was. I had an Instagram post a year or two ago. People always are like, what do you do to your face?
Mhm.
And so I listed like everything that I've done to my face in the last, 15 years, which is kind of a long list. And I got a couple snarky comments
Uh-huh.
in the comments. And the ones that struck me the most were some younger women that said, I'd rather spend my money on travel and experiences. And I'd rather spend I'm adding the accent, but I'd rather spend I'd rather spend my money on X. And I responded to them and I was like, you can have both.
Yeah.
We don't have to get in a mindset of either or. I know that sometimes you do have to choose in your day-to-day life and make decisions that serve your future self 100%. But what we're working toward is a mindset of it's okay to believe that I can have everything. And, I didn't want her or them to think like they have to choose. Like,
yeah.
keep moving forward because you can have everything. You can have a great fat bank account, some fun travel, a cool job you
Mhm.
love, and someone in
Sure.
your life. Like, we don't have to pick and choose. And I refuse to believe that it's, an either or.
Where do you
proposition.
think then that feedback, I would say jealousy? Where do you think that would come from?
I don't know, just conditioning probably.
Yeah.
I think that, or just maybe, they're in a mindset at that moment where they do have to choose. Like,
Mhm.
I'd rather do this. But yeah, there's some judgment behind it.
Sure.
So maybe it's an invitation to let go of judgment.
Yeah.
And I don't really care. I posted it because I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, I want to tell
Bravo.
people I'm very open.
Yeah.
So as I am on my show all the time, if anybody wants to check that out.
Sure. And we'll put that in the bio as well
Thanks.
below this video. But I find that really interesting. I also think it's interesting that what would matter to one woman, right? Getting facials or their nails done is not the same that matters to a guy. So in your relationship with your partner now, who's also super cool and also has a really awesome podcast, have you guys had conversations about money? Because you have a very admirable relationship from what I can tell. So I'm curious how you guys or how you have in past relationships become comfortable discussing money, any like major differences and advice you'd give to a young woman if the guy or girl they're with has different
Yeah.
ideas surrounding money.
That's a great question because I am twice divorced and each one of them I had a child with too. So it's a lot of stuff going on, but totally different this time around. Like, I had to prioritize how we're dealing with money. And I think that in my old relationships, I took care of everything. And now I'm realizing that's not the path.
And when you say take care of everything.
I mean, all the finances.
Okay.
and really everything.
Yeah. So like you would
And
choose where to go to dinner, or you would choose.
I just mean I'd take care of the house. I'd make
Mhm.
sure everything was taken care of there. I'd make sure the kids were taken care of.
Mhm.
Maybe not dinner, but I'd pay that credit card bill.
Yeah. Interesting.
So yeah, and I think that I like to know what's going on to the point of I can be too controlling over it. And so I'm realizing that we are a team. And so it's been such a shift too, because of the podcast network closing, because the Statesman closed down their audio department last fall. So my income completely changed, and I had to lean on him more, which surprised me. And we're going to go through times like that. So what's your balance? Are you for sure a team? And we've had some stressful conversations about it, but we've managed to figure out that we are on the same team and that we're going to do this together. And I'm lucky. Well, no, not lucky, I guess, but I am happy to say that I have someone who steps up every time. He wants to create the best life too. He's in a growth mindset. He, like me, continues to want to get better and better. And so we look at each other as being 100%, not a 50-50, each of us being 100, you know?
Super cool.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. And it's interesting what you said as well about everything you did in your past relationships. 'Cause I think a lot of women think, I mean, and I guess from back in the day, right? A guy is the one who takes care of the bills and the woman has more flexibility, but she watches after the kid. I don't know if that kind of standard still exists, but it's definitely more of a common one.
Yeah.
And how do you feel like you ended up being that in that role where you took care of everything?
I think because I had income from those investments that my dad had set up for me. Like I had more money, like, you know, and maybe that's that dynamic, you know, that older dynamic. If the man is the breadwinner more than he's handling the purse strings or whatever, you know, and it's dated now, right? It's dated. But yeah, I was kind of surprised at it too. I haven't asked my sister. I think she's got more of a balance. She has a really long marriage of 25 years or something. But
it's very intimidating.
I know. But yeah, I'm just trying now to learn from those and look at it and understand where I could have done better. And I know I could have spoken up about things better. I know I could have worked harder to understand my own finances, which I didn't. And there was plenty that I thought was too complicated or something, or I'm not good at that. It's not that hard.
No.
It's not. And so just taking little baby steps with it makes all the difference. And that's really what I've had to do, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, you set a goal, like I'm going to set up my LLC, and you just start to assemble the right team, the right people who want to help, an accountant, just some simple things, and you can start to understand.
You mentioned like going into being an entrepreneur, you know, the finances behind when that radio station part closed down. And going into pursuing your company full time. So what have you learned along the way about money? I mean, I'm assuming it's more stressful from what I know of being an entrepreneur dealing with money, but it's a totally different ballgame than having a paycheck.
It is. You know what? I've had an entrepreneurial streak for a long time. I worked in radio off and on for 30 years, but in that time span, I mean, I had kids and did this other stuff, but I had a clothing store in West Austin for 5 years, like from 99 to 2005. Yeah, right in the like Sex and the City era. And that was kind of our thing. And, you know, I was like 28, and that was like getting an MBA. I mean, that was that whole thing that you just mentioned. I mean, that is a real like, holy crap, you do everything. And it is really having a brick and mortar. I don't ever want to go back.
Why did it close down? Because it was too hard?
I was having a baby.
Got it. Okay.
And my partner had already had like 2 kids during the run of it. And so I didn't really want to do both. I went to By George. Matt and Katie still owned By George at that time. And right when I got pregnant, they were there and celebrating their 25th anniversary. And I was like, 25th anniversary. I was like, I don't think I want to do this for 25 years or 20 more years. And so we were like, let's wrap it up. And it was really at the advent. Nordstrom was coming to town. It was the advent of online shopping. And I was like, I just don't think so.
No.
So anyway, we bowed out. But I'm excited that some of my contemporaries at that time have had such success, like a Stilo and some other stores. So it's nice to see them still around. But yeah, I've had this entrepreneurial kind of like edge because I just think maybe that rubbed off from my dad too, because he did. And I think I just wanted to march to my own drum. And although paycheck is nice too, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, in the last year, figuring out how to make money with my podcast to get it up to where I want it and have the sponsors that I want and things like that, that's a road. I mean, that's just a process that's ongoing. You know, I'll hit 3 years this fall with that show. And so, or in December. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see what develops after the 3-year mark. And I created courses. I mean, I watch, you know, these TikToks and stuff. Create courses and you'll be a millionaire. You know, and like
it's like an OG form of a Ponzi scheme, though. Some of this stuff.
I mean, kinda.
Yes, it really is.
Kinda. Because she's really selling courses on how to make courses.
Yeah, of course.
So maybe that's the ticket. I don't know. But the courses, I mean, like, I'm thrilled with the content in there. It's all the stuff I do all the time. I think they're total value. One is free and it's ageless mindset. It's like staying youthful, but it's really about that mindset. But the point is, you create the courses and like you got to keep going because I'm not paying my rent with those courses. Like I'm not. And so, you know, then you go, okay, how do I keep serving, keep creating what I want to create and make money at it? And you just keep on keeping on.
A lot of people also think with podcasts that there's this overnight success, but when you actually, I mean, you probably know this. I love that you say the 3 years because Rogan, I mean, even Call Her Daddy, these started like 5, 6, 7 years
ago. They sure did.
And that's when most of the most successful shows have started. It really is not something so overnight in that game of being really successful and getting sponsors.
Not at all. They say you'll start to see some real growth at 3 years. And then, you know, I'm going to, of course, keep going after that. But yeah, my partner, he started his podcast and he's a public figure. His name's Justin Wren. You can check out his podcast, Overcome. But he's been on Rogan before and he kept comparing himself. He's like, well, Joe does this. And I was like, you have to stop right now. That's not where you don't start and you're there.
No.
Like, so no, a lot of people use a podcast to accent and highlight their business like you. But, you know, for me, I want it to be the thing.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit of a different focus for me, but at the same time, it is just about slow growth. You know, it is about, staying the course long-term and staying consistent with it. But that spills over into anything. The same things you do in podcasting are what you're going to do with any entrepreneurial venture. And you consistency and attention to it. Like I was talking about in the beginning, when I then paid more attention to my show, I was like, wow, it's that much better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm able to pay closer attention to who my sponsors are or my affiliates right now. But like, I'm able to pay closer attention to really care about it. You know?
Sure.
And so that's been like a microcosm of the entrepreneurial thing. And so I guess I say microcosm. It's actually the whole thing for me. But for a lot of people, it can be that, you know, just and staying consistent with it.
What do you use as well?
It's microcosm's the right word. Yeah. Because it represents all the aspects of it.
What do you use? You said for like the tracking and whatnot. Are you like an Excel person? Do you use like Asana to know kind of the numbers and how many sponsors you need and what, you know, you charge per sponsorship / how do you even come up with that being a successful podcaster 3 years in? How do you even decide what to charge a brand who wants an ad?
It's important to ask around and see what other people are doing, what your friends are doing. I think that the conversation about how much you're making and all that is very important. We need to be more vocal about that because then we all rise together, right? And so I do try to do that. But at the same time, I know what I've charged in the past. And so I'm able to say, all right, you know, I can create an ad for you that's this long and it's going to live forever on this podcast if you want it to. And it's, you know, $250 for this 30-second ad that's in the middle of the podcast. If you want something that's a top sponsor, if you want it to be for, you know, 3 months, then, you know, you're looking at something more like $10,000 and it'll be at the top of the show notes. It'll be included in my newsletter. So you can add value in different ways, but you don't want to devalue yourself in any way. So I think that was another thing too, you know, just emphasizing, everybody's heard it a million times, but knowing your worth and sticking with it and collaborating with brands that you really care about. Like I had one just approach me the other day and it was called Monogamish. And maybe I shouldn't say that. But anyway, it's like a platform for I guess, polyamory.
Sure.
And I was like, I'm not opposed to that at all. And probably people that listen to my show would be into that.
Sure.
I've talked about it, but that's not where I'm at right now. And I don't know that I could speak to that. And after looking at it, I was like, I don't know if this is quite a fit. So I just sort of put that on the back burner. And some things just aren't going to be a fit. And I don't know, sometimes you say, but I need the money.
I was just going to say, sometimes, it's such good money. And I find especially the alcohol brands, the weed brand, the sex and sexual health brands have the most money.
Yeah.
Like so many brands I've saw that like are throwing up thousands of dollars, like masturbation toys. And like I saw even one time Demi Lovato and Miley Cyrus and all these influencers doing the same post. And they were offering a ton of money, but also like you have to be comfortable talking about that. Personally, I don't feel that comfortable talking about it. But then it's also like $10,000. So it's this weird thing, right?
Yeah. They just did this on And Just Like That. Did you see it?
No, on the new season?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen the new season,
Carrie's got her podcast and she's like got to do something for vaginal health. And she's like, I literally can't say this.
To do.
She's like, they have this whole thing about it. And it made me laugh. Like I could kind of relate. But yeah, I'm sober right now. And I don't think I would probably advertise alcohol right now. I don't think that fits with my brand. It's not like part of your best self to me. But like, wands, which does create like pleasure practice, glass wands and things like that. I love those. I'm like all for it. So I can speak to that. So for me, it's got to fit my brand. Even if it's $10,000, I might rethink it. But actually, I think I would still be able to say no. Or, maybe you can talk to the brand and see a way that fits you, or if they have a product that fits your brand, that you could highlight or something like that if they just are like in love with you and like, I have to have Alexa Curtis's voice on it. So I don't know, there's some, but then they're going to be doing something. They're paying attention to your brand, so yeah, that's just a personal thing, right?
But it's refreshing to hear because that's what authenticity is. And that's what I find, unfortunately, a lot of people lack in this day and age, especially with social media, is that ability to say, I said no because I actually really care more about the people. Very simple. It's you care more about the people who listen to you and follow you than you do about the money or what that brand would think.
I care about meaning it. It's my voice, And
you only have one.
I only have one.
For sure.
Yeah. And that is my MO, my voice. Like I said, I have a long track record with radio. I still do a lot of voice work for commercials. And voice just really matters in speaking my truth. Like that is like so key to me. And so I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
Just because that's literally my brand.
Yeah. It's the opposite of you. And people can see that. And
if your brand is try anything, then that might be perfect.
Sure. But you're right. If you were sober and then talking about alcohol, the first thing someone would probably think is, wow, the money would have been very good.
Right.
Unless it was like a syrup.
It just doesn't resonate.
No.
Like it's weird. Yeah.
It is. I know you mentioned you also just interviewed someone on your show who had some good money tips. So I don't know if there's any that come to mind that you would want to share.
There was one, and that's it's something you mentioned earlier. And you were saying some people want to spend money on facials, some on this. One of the things, I had an overspending coach, Paige Pritchard. She goes by overcoming_overspending. She's got a huge TikTok, and she's cool. So I love talking to her. It was a long episode. We went almost 2 hours and I was like, what? So one of the things that she said was, what do you really love to spend money on? And she was like, for me, it's, bettering my education and anything that makes my life easier, like hiring someone to do my yard, clean my house, like those kind of things. And I was like, ooh, that's a really good answer. And so I've been toying with that just in the last few weeks. Like, what do I really love to spend money on? And so that's a fun thing to explore for yourself and just to get in touch with, maybe I'm spending money on this and it doesn't align with, maybe you go through your bank records because you're giving some attention to your bank account every single day. And she uses an app called YNAB, YNAB. I haven't used that one.
Okay.
And, you might look at it and be like, oh my gosh, I've spent, this much money on, something you really don't care that much about. And so you're able to assess like that, now I know what my values really are. And now I know that I really want to spend on things that elevate my brand or things that make my home more comfortable.
What do you like to spend on? Like, what would be one thing?
I do love home stuff.
Okay.
I love being at home, and I love my home, and I love creating a home for my family that feels really good. So I like that. And I do like things that make my life easier.
Okay.
For sure.
What is
like
something-
having someone clean my house
Okay.
is, I mean, life-changing. Like I won't go back to cleaning, I don't think. I did during the pandemic for a while, and I was like, oh yeah, this is why I don't want to do this. This is why I'm willing to pay someone always. So yeah, you know, as you grow up, like moving, like 100% Packers, 100%. And like, I'm like, my boyfriend's 15 years younger. So he's like, and he's strong, and he's like, well, we do. And I'm like, oh no, I don't do that anymore. Like that, like there's certain things that I love. But do I love to spend money on that? Yeah, I do.
And when even when he said that and you fought back, was that something in your relationship that are like, no, this is a non-negotiable about money? Like, I don't think, look, it's not being spent on this, even though you think you can move everything. Or was there flexibility in that?
There was flexibility.
There was.
I think there was like some give and take and some conversation. Okay. Yeah. I don't think we get too hard and fast on those things. No.
Okay.
No, I think that's important. That's part of just listening and being a good partner and understanding, like, you know, because I know the things that he really wants to spend money on and loves to spend money on. He loves to get things for people and do things for people. And so do I. And so, you know, we just have some other little things. And so I'm not going to say you shouldn't. Like, you know, tuning into your partner's true loves and desires is a good thing, you know, and like figuring out ways like, yes, of course you can do that. Sure. Of course we can figure out how you're going to be able to spend on the things that you love.
I find those interpersonal relationships so interesting, especially between people in relationships, because I love to spend money on my nails and my hair. I don't want to get it done, but like I maintain it.
Yeah.
And it's definitely different because like I would date someone who is very chill and doesn't really need to do any of that and wears the same 3 outfits. But that's like a very common thing for a guy. So it's an interesting dynamic to try and explain to someone why you want to get your nails done or why you want to get your hair done. But that for me is something that's just a non-negotiable, nor do I ever want to explain why I want to do that.
I don't want to explain why either.
Yeah.
And we've had those times before and I'll be like, oh God, I got to buy this for the kids or whatever. And now I'm going to have to explain it. I don't know.
No.
Like, I think that comes with age too. You're just like, let's not explain. Like, let's just accept.
Sure. I feel like anything that's a large purchase, if you like tomorrow we're like, I'm going to go and buy a Porsche, I guess you would tell your partner that, or, you know, a Maserati or whatnot. But anything else, I'm kind of like, you're an adult.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and if it's a responsible purchase, then I mean, I don't know. I like, but you and I are very independent type.
I know.
You know, like we don't want to answer to anybody. I remember my first marriage, we had to go to this like little class and we got married Catholic. Anyway, we had to go to this little class and they asked us all these questions. And one was, how much would you feel comfortable spending without talking to your partner first? And we answered them. And we came back and his answer was $75. And I was like, my answer was like $500.
Mine would probably be $5,000.
Yeah. Well, now mine would be much higher, but I was 24. And so I was like, I thought 500 was reasonable, but we were both like, oh my God, apparently we need to have a talk.
Yeah. And did you have that talk?
We tried.
You tried.
I mean.
Yeah, it's
that thing didn't stick.
No, that's obviously didn't stick for the right reasons, but also that kind of thing is like a fundamental difference, and people definitely,
it was, and it said a lot about how we view money and partnership, probably. And I really should have probably taken that more into account.
You were 24.
I was 24. What did I know?
I don't, that's literally my age now, and I can't even imagine being married. Are
you 24 right now?
25.
25. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't.
No, but I'm not.
There's plenty of time.
Yeah.
Plenty of time. I mean, look at me now. I'm like totally in love. We met when I was 48.
Okay.
And he's 15 years younger.
What's the proper age you think to get in a serious relationship?
Oh God, I can't answer that. There's no right answer.
Okay.
There's no right answer. Just to be sure. And if it's somebody that has a lot of resistance when you bring up money, pay attention to that, because that can be a real problem moving forward, you know, and you want a team. You want a team. And like I said, that 100%, I think it's Brene Brown or somebody talks about this thing where you feel like if you're doing more, they're going to rise up and do more too. And she said, it's not. She said, how much you're doing balances out to 100%. And so if you feel like you want to both be your 100%, but the analogy was about how much gets done. And if you feel like you're doing more, the other person just levels out and does.
No, 100%.
Totally.
It's
a real bummer, but I've seen it in action. And so, you know, having those conversations and really connecting together and figuring out like, how you're each going to do stuff. And luckily we've gotten in a good groove. I mean, he's in recovery, and I go to Al-Anon. And so we both take it seriously about being our best selves and taking full responsibility for ourselves. And so that's a really good place to be. And sometimes the two people just aren't of the same mindset.
Yeah.
And so I think paying attention to those, I would say just, if you feel a red flag, pay attention to that, because that's the thing that's going to bring you down. It did both times for me.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay. I look back now at some things and I'm like, I should have trusted my gut, I guess, maybe a little bit more with that. But sometimes it's hard because like you said, you think that you take a step forward and that someone else will too.
Yep.
But I love what you say that you guys are both very much like independent and want to be your best self, because that's the kind of relationship I think anyone should aspire to have.
Thank you.
And have someone that they're a partner.
And for me
with.
too, it was partly because I'm a people pleaser, recovering people pleaser. And like my first marriage, I was already that far down the rabbit hole, and everybody was expecting it to be certain ways and all different things. And I was like, I'm compromising on literally everything. And I knew that was a problem. And that ended up being the main problem of our marriage. I was expected to just not speak up and speak my voice. Right.
Interesting.
I wasn't speaking my voice either, but that, those times that you compromise and you want to please everybody, like that's when we're not paying attention to who we really are and not allowing ourselves to speak our truth. And so that's where we pay attention.
Yeah.
But easier said than done.
Of course.
Sometimes you got to learn the lessons the hard way. Take it from me.
Excellent.
And you know what? You can come out shiny on the other side. Promise, because it can be some dark fucking times.
Yeah.
Like post-divorce for me, both times was dark. It's tough, but you're going to come out the other side. It's okay. It's okay. We all have dark times. We all have ups and downs, just like we were talking about at the beginning. Everything ebbs and flows.
Always.
So if we can remember that there is going to be a change, because everything changes. That's the one thing that's constant. So if you can just remember that, it does. It really does. This too shall pass.
Yes. That's such a good term. No one ever says that anymore, but it's a very...
It's so true. It's so true. It is, right? Yeah.
I always look back on things and I'm like, wow, I really genuinely never thought that was going to end, or that was never going to pass, that phase of terrible time or depression, anxiety, and it always does.
Same, and it always does. I literally had one like 2 weeks ago. I did some breath work. It hit me hard. I was like slogging around my house all depressed. My kids were like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, this is never going to pass. Apparently I'm in a hole for the rest of my life. And there was this little part of me that was like, this always passes. Yeah, you're being tough. This always passes. And so it did.
Yeah.
It did. And like, I mean, look at me now. I'm like,
Sure.
What was that? But you know what? We just got to cut ourselves some slack. Like just stand outside yourself a little bit. Treat yourself nice. Like, and it doesn't always have to be anything that you're spending money on.
No, take a step back and remind yourself. That's what I like. That part about manifesting always helps to me too. Like this has to happen for a reason. It's just one moment in this very short amount of time in this journey.
It really is. I mean, like, I'm astonished that I am happier now than I've ever been. And I'm clearly older. I'm not like my youngest. I'm not my fittest. I'm working on it. I'm not my richest right now, but working on it. But I mean, I'm like, you know what? Happiness is a process that we have to choose every single day by these little things that we do, you know? And if you're burying your head in the sand about anything related to your money, you will be happier if you just take a look.
Sure. You're right. No, that's
and then it can be that simple.
A lot of these books too, it's just as simple as like knowing it and then really getting it on a system of like automating it. That's what I realized. The debts you have to pay off, and I don't do as good at tracking. I mean, I know I spend a tremendous amount on like food and travel. I'm not as good at knowing.
I don't either, but I think that's okay.
Yeah. And I
think for some people they want to track it all.
Sure.
You may not.
No.
I don't really. I've gotten this far and I haven't.
Sure.
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think you have to do all those little detail-y things that can make it feel like a full-time job. But as long as you're giving it the energy that it deserves, which it is a huge part of your life, so it does deserve energy. It deserves your good energy. And so watch how you talk about money. Like I noticed recently, my daughter made the cheer team, and the expenses for that have been surprisingly very high. And I realized I was like bitching every time I got a new bill from the cheer coach. And I was like, what the hell?
What do they charge you? What is it for?
It's like over $2,000. It's crazy. It's madness.
The outfit?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just everything.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
You know what? Cheer should be considered a sport. It's a travesty that it's not in the state of Texas. So
Sure.
they have to pay their own way. So anyway, though, I realized that my inner dialogue around it was really complainy. And so I was like, I'm not treating this money with respect. And so I need to have a happier attitude toward it and a more abundant and wealthy and healthy attitude toward it. So I had to shift. And that's the cool thing about life, is that you're going to get these little teeny lessons all the time. All the time. There it is in just a random email about cheer, you know? And so I was like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to improve how I'm thinking about money and how I'm talking about money. Because when I go tell her dad, like, oh my God, we owe this much more. And he's like, what the fuck? I'm like, I know. You know, like, we don't need to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we can have it like in a more positive way. And so those little bitty things start to truly add up in the way that we're manifesting, in the way that we're viewing money, in the way that we're giving energy to it that feeds back.
Yeah. Kids also feel all of that. I mean, I remember the conversations my parents had about just genuinely struggling when I was growing up, and this like hoarding money thing. And
Big time.
And I look back and sometimes I resent my mom a little bit because of the way, but it's also like her parents were like that, and she grew up really poor and she never really made a lot of money. So it was very much that. So it's hard to kind of fully resent her, but I'm like, gosh, this is why these conversations I find so impactful, is because this is everything I wish someone had taught me.
Oh man. But
So-
you've already done so much. I mean, you've supported yourself for such a long time. I really admire that.
Thanks.
And so this is the right place for you to be, to help other people with what you've learned. I mean,
hope
imagine
so.
where you're going to be when you're my age. Like, that's incredible. Alexa.
Well, oh my
No,
gosh.
truly.
I just want to look like you look and have the mindset that you have and
super
the
good.
relationship that you have. So I have a long way to go. That being said, yeah, I've been paying off debt, all of it, but like knowing, like getting it under control, I find is the only way to handle it. But I like to wrap out these episodes with like 5 quick questions
All right.
about money.
Okay.
So we'll start with, if you had $500 that someone gave you right now, what would you do with it?
Oh, $500. Now, that doesn't get you as far these days. I think I would go get a facial. I haven't gotten a facial in a long time.
Okay.
And you know, I do like spending money on my face, and I haven't done anything to that. So I think I would go spend it. Yeah, that's what I would do. I'd get a facial and get me a couple new products.
Okay, I was going to say, because
Then there's $500 right
yeah, you probably got like an extra 300 if your facial's on the 200
Right.
range.
Okay. My facial's like 170, 200, yeah.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I'd have a little extra for like a couple good products.
Okay.
I'm low on my products right now, so
Me
that's
too.
what I do.
And when it comes to investing, do you enjoy something like traditional stocks? Are you more into real estate? I know you mentioned because of your dad.
I was thinking about real estate before I came on, and like, I've lived in Austin since 1994. And in 1994, we thought the prices were really high.
I can't even imagine what this unit would have cost.
Oh my God. Well, I looked at a unit on 12th and Lamar, like those condos that are right there that kind of go up the hill. And it was like, I want to say 75,000
In 94.
And I thought it was a lot.
Oh my God. Well, and at that time, that sounds like a lot.
Maybe it was 120, but whatever. It was, I should have bought it.
Yeah.
Right. I should have bought it. I'm sure that's a $2 million property.
Mhm.
And, you know, so I kind of wanted to say, like, real estate, quit saying real estate's too expensive. It's the cheapest it's going to be right now. So just let that old story go. So I think it's good to have, like, diversify. My clothing store, I funded completely in Dell stock because I happened to get in the 90s. I bought a little. I told my dad, I was like, I think I'm going to buy some Dell stock. He was like, okay. And he didn't ever do stocks. He didn't really have much luck with that, a little bit. So I took some of my money. I think I only took, seriously, Alexa, I think I took $2,000. And then it split and it split and it split. It was that big Dell split in the 90s. And I ended up with a lot because it split so much and everybody was booming with that. And I just did that at the right time.
Yeah.
I mean, I wished I'd done it earlier, but anyway, I ended up paying to open my clothing store with that Dell money. I ended up selling it, and maybe I should have held on to it longer, but whatever, and did something I really wanted to do.
Okay.
So I think it's like fun to invest if it's something that you believe in. If you're like, I should buy Tesla stock if it's $600 or whatever it is, Apple, like maybe not. But if it's something that you really believe in that goes public, like that's fun. And I think that that's part of it, is making it fun and also staying conscious in what you're investing in, because there's a lot that maybe have some practices that don't align with your values. So but if you don't care about that, then there's plenty of Black Rocks or whatever out there that you can go invest in. So it's fun to diversify, and it's fun to just open a Ameritrade account or whatever it's called and do some investing. Yeah. So that's the way I viewed it. I've had fun with it in the past. I don't have a ton of stocks right now, but I do have some.
You make it sound fun. Would you choose
Good.
Would you choose a Tesla stock or a Nordstrom stock if you had an additional $5,000?
Good. What would I choose? I don't think I'd choose Nordstrom. I just don't feel that strong about department stores right now. I really like EVs a lot better. And I'd probably go with Tesla.
Love Tesla. Okay, my last two.
Oh, so I passed that answer.
You passed that answer. I was going to say Tesla too. I do love Nordstrom, but I would say Tesla. If you were to go and open another business, would you choose a beauty in some capacity store or fashion/home design?
Oh, it has to be a store?
Can be a store, boutique, online retailer, similar to like what you did before with the store.
Oh, I love fashion. But I don't think I want to be in clothing anymore. I mean, it's just like, it's a lot to make that work. And I admire, like I mentioned, Stephanie at Estila here in Austin, and I really admire Steph. She's really stuck it out, made that work. And not everybody can do that. Retail is a hard biz. I'd go in the home direction, because then you can like have a dope home. Like you get the bennies of that. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then my last question would be to make it more local to Austin. If you're wandering around on a weekend and you have some, that $500 again, are you going to go and book like a staycation, or are you someone that would just take a nice long day shopping up and down South Congress, going to the east side? They have really cute home stores and plant stores now in Austin.
Yeah. I'd probably do something like that. I love doing stuff like that now. And, doing things for my family and maybe having a nice meal all together. Like I prioritize the experiences and being with the people that I love.
Yeah, that's how I feel about travel. That's why I'm like, I'll spend money on this. I feel like I understand something.
You do. Absolutely. It's so worth it. I mean, I just went to Africa, and talk about changing your perspective of wealth. And I went to Uganda in March, and, that travel was so incredibly worth it. And to see people who have literally nothing, like live in a mud hut. They really don't have much. But not only were they really just super happy people, but they weren't resentful toward me standing there with whatever, they weren't like, they didn't treat me like in a way where they're like, why do you have that and I don't? No, there was like none of that. Like in some places, maybe in cities, but overall, people were just kind because you're a person and you're there. And
did you go on a safari too?
I did.
You did? Okay.
I talk about something worth spending money on. Totally. And so, anyway, that was really eye-opening for me. And I was like, wow, I think that I have a lot to learn. And so that's been a really good perspective shift to let go of resentments, to let go of anything. Why do they have it and I don't? That kind of comparison thing. And then also to realize how your money can do good in other parts of the world and help people live better lives, live more safe and, provided for lives with the basics, like a hospital.
Of course.
So which is what we're working on building with Fight for the Forgotten, is a hospital for them. So so it's been, that comes back to giving. But anyway, travel, like it's taken on kind of a little bit of a new meaning for me. But I'm headed to Egypt this December, so I'm pretty stoked about that.
I've never been there, but my mom has gone there and like raves about it.
I can't wait. That was one that like maybe I wasn't in a position to spend the money on, but my friend was like, we're organizing this trip, blah, blah, blah. There's a deposit, blah, blah. And I was like, I'll literally pay the deposit right now. Like I did it right then. And I was like, whoa,
fearless.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes something comes up and you're like, yep. And so
life's too short. That's the thing. It's like if the $5 latte, some people get so nervous about what they're spending on coffee. It's like, that's really not going to make a big impact in your life. $500,000 or $5,000 if you really don't have enough does, but $5, $10, $200. You're good to go. Amy, where can everyone find more about you, listen to your show? We'll obviously put it in the show notes, but it has been such a joy to have you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And in closing, I just want to say too, just remember, wherever you are on your journey, stop beating yourself up right now. It's never too late. That's part of my message, is it's never too late to just figure out the next thing. That's right. That's part of the beauty of life, is learning the next thing. And so my show is all about just finding your best you right now, like shifting our mindset and making it happen through better habits and actualizing that part of us that's our higher self that can lean into life more.
Yeah.
And so it's called The Amy Edwards Show. And like I said, I have a series of money episodes that just came out a couple months ago or like May.
Yeah.
And one is with wealth coach Jen Kennedy. And we talked about like entrepreneurship and building wealth. She's great. And one was with Hannah Beer, and she talked about money energy. And she is a money energy coach.
Oh, okay.
She was a total trip.
Yeah.
I mean, but I liked it.
Oh.
But she's pretty out there.
Yeah.
So, and then third, I talked to Paige Pritchard, who I mentioned before. We talked about overcoming overspending, very down to earth with a lot of practical tips. And I just can't say enough about the value of those three. And I've really enjoyed it. So anybody can listen to my show. It comes out every week, every Thursday. I have a YouTube also. It's the Amy Edwards Show, wherever you get your podcasts or wherever you listen. So, and I'm at Real Amy Edwards on Instagram, and my link in bio there, amyedwards.info, has literally everything. It has courses I mentioned if you want a free one. It has, we were going to talk about, I have a podcast guide coming up too. If you want to elevate your brand and be a podcast guest, learn how to pitch and get on more podcasts, I have a simple guide for that. And I have a lot of experience in being pitched too. So that's out too. It's on my amyedwards.info. So it's all there. I'm easy to find.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. Thank you for being here,
Thank you,
for
Alexa.
listening. You had some incredible things to say about manifestation
Thank you.
and with money, and I think that's really relative. So we will link all of that in the show notes below this episode, and would love to have you on again in the future.
Anytime.
More about kind of your entrepreneurial side. I know this one's geared more towards money, but you are amazing. So thank you so
You're
much. for being
amazing.
here.
Thank you.
You are.
Congratulations. And I'm wishing you all the best.
Thanks.